Well, hello, parents of sixth grade confirmation students. I promised you last week that I'd make a short video to go over the things that we are talking about in class this week for any discussion you might want to have with your kids at home about what they learned and to give you some questions for you to ask them. Today in class, we're going to be covering units 14 and 15 from their book, the 30 Lesson Bible Overview. This is the teacher's edition, but theirs looks similar to this. We're covering units 14 and 15, which takes us through the reigns of David, Solomon, and to the divided monarchy. So Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And some things you need to know that we're going to talk about in class. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the story of David and Mephibosheth, which is a story that not many people know about, but it actually, in my opinion, is the most clear picture of the gospel that you get in the Old Testament in a narrative form. So it's a story about David and Mephibosheth, who was Saul's grandson, and the recently deposed King Saul. And it shows the kindness of God of David to Mephibosheth as foreshadowing the kindness of Christ to us. And so I'd encourage you to read that story of David and Mephibosheth. It's found in 2 Samuel, beginning in chapter 4, verse 4. Picks up again pretty much in all of chapter 9, and then again in chapter 16, verses 1 through 4, chapter 19, around verse 24, and then in chapter 21, verses 8 to 10, that's where Mephibosheth shows up. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the main accomplishments of King David, which is consolidating power in the monarchy and moving the Ark of the Covenant, the religious hub of the life of Israel, to Jerusalem, as well as moving the capital city to Jerusalem, centralizing power, and about how he wrote the Psalms, about his sin with Bathsheba, and also about him being a man after God's own heart, that he was a flawed man, but God used him, and he believed in God, and he followed God, and how that foreshadows our relationship with Christ. And we'll move on from there to talk about Saul, what Saul did, brought riches to the kingdom, and how he built the temple for God, and how he ultimately was led astray by his riches and power to serve other gods, and how he started well but ended badly. And then we will wrap things up with talking about how the kingdom was divided along north-south lines, Jeroboam, Rehoboam, and the importance of listening to wise people, and the importance of getting sound counsel and advice. So some questions you might want to ask are to have your kids tell you the story of David and Mephibosheth and ask them where they fit in with this story, how they can relate to being like Mephibosheth, and how Jesus is kind of like David to them. You can also ask them questions about Saul's money and the wealth and how that helped him with his relationship with God. Hint, it didn't. It got in the way. It was a hindrance to his relationship with God. And then you can ask them about people in their life that they trust for advice as we take a look at the mistake that Rehoboam makes, not listening to the advice of his elders, but instead listening to the advice of his friends. So if you have any questions, you can post them below here on this YouTube little one take on what we're doing in sixth grade confirmation, or you can email me at pastor@stpaulankeny.org. Hope you're having a great day. God bless.